I recently made a video about Tucker Carlson, and some people got pretty upset about one specific term: dog whistle. A lot of people hear me say dog whistle, or they hear me say right-wing propagandist, as if they actually have an issue with that. If I would show you pictures of Rachel Maddow, or if I will show you a picture of Don Lemon, you wouldn't have any issue if I called them a propagandist if you're on the right wing. And if I show you pictures of Tucker Carlson, Fox and Friends, and the rest, you would not have an issue with me calling them a propagandist if you're left wing. But for some reason, people always get mad when you call it what it is: a multi-million-dollar giant funding this individual to go on the news every day and not deliver the news, but tell you about how the green M&M is becoming less sexual.
M&Ms will not be satisfied until every last cartoon character is deeply unappealing and totally androgynous.
The main point here, though, is the obsession with this idea of dog whistle as a bad thing, as an unprovable point that when someone uses, they must be dismissed. But dog whistling isn't just something to be ignored. It's not an idea to just throw away. So I thought, hey, let's dig into it a little bit. What is dog whistling in politics? Dog whistle is a use of coded language to try to pass a message across or placate to a specific group of people that at the same time is also hidden from the rest of the public, right? Like a dog whistle, which is an ultrasonic whistle that only dogs can hear. A political dog whistle is an ultrasonic phrase, saying, or concept that only specific groups hear. And they're usually used to convey specific messages that are controversial without actually arising any negative criticism or attention to them. William Safire, a presidential speechwriter and a New York Times columnist, talked about the origin of where this idea or this notion of political dog whistling came from. He says,
subtle changes in question wording sometimes produce remarkably different results. Researchers call this the dog whistle effect. Respondents hear something in the question that researchers do not.
This essentially conveys that political dog whistles need to have different meanings depending on the interpretation. In order for something to be a dog whistle, it's precisely because it's ambiguous. It's precisely because it doesn't have a clear interpretation. It can be interpreted in a specific way, and it usually is interpreted in a way that is politically advantageous. The easiest place to see where dog whistles come from and to be able to identify them is usually in history, right? It's very hard to call current day things dog whistles, but once you have a historical context of what they look like, they become really easy to identify. And what's easier than American politics? Everyone knows what the Civil War was about. It was about slavery. It was in the charter of the seceding states that it was because of slavery. The president of the Confederacy has literally openly said that, it's white man's natural position to be above the black man. Right? This was very clearly what the Civil War was about. But there was a moment in U.S. history where they tried to change that. To change the coding, to change the semantics, to change the language. From slavery, that's what the war was about the war of northern aggression. It was a war for states' rights. Well, states' rights to do what? States' rights to keep slaves. This would be an example of a form of dog whistle, but a really easy one to see through. In the 1950s, something happened in American politics. The Great Shift, where Democrats became Republicans and Republicans became Democrats, and this was the Southern strategy. It was a strategy to appeal to the racist white voters in the South to get votes for a party that was losing its constituency, specifically the Republican Party. And we know this is the case. How do we know this is the case? Well, in 1981, Lee Atwater openly said this.
You start out in 1954 by saying, nigga, nigga, nigga. By 1968, you can't say nigger. That hurts you. Backfires. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. You're getting so abstract now, you're talking about cutting taxes. And all these things you're talking about are totally economic things, and a byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites. And subconsciously, maybe that is a part of it. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that if it is getting that abstract and that coded, that we are doing away with the racial problem one way or another. You follow me? Because obviously sitting around saying we want to cut this is much more abstract than even the busing thing, and a hell of a lot more abstract than nigger nigger.
Right there, a literal admission of using dog whistles. I'm not going to say the N-word. I'm going to say forced busing. I'm going to say welfare queens. I'm going to say the crack epidemic. I'm going to say super predators. But really what I'm saying is blacks getting hurt more than whites. Or blacks need to be getting hurt more than whites. So if we say things like cut taxes or all of these other things, there's a specific angle that they're pushing, a specific group that you're dog whistling to. So how did this relate to Tucker Carlson and all the criticism I was getting over it? Well, Tucker Carlson talking about the Great Replacement Theory. And for those who don't know, this is what he said.
I'm laughing because this is one of about 10 stories that I know you've covered where the government shows preference to people who have shown absolute contempt for our customs, our laws, our system itself, and they're being treated better than American citizens. Now, I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually.
Well, what is this replacement, this great replacement? It's the idea that the Democrats or a specific group in society is trying to bring in immigrants. Immigrants to do what? To replace the population. Which population? The white population. This is why I put in my video a clip of this guy.
Family watches Tucker Carlson's show once and then watches it on the replay because they feel that he is making the white nationalist talking points better than they have.
No, if you don't know, he's the son of one of the biggest white supremacist groups on the planet. They love Tucker because this is what dog whistling is. You might not hear it, but other people do. And the best way to understand that, try to put yourself in the shoes of someone else. Try to see the world through the perspective of another person. That's what a dog whistle is. If you understand the inside joke, you get it. As always, keep thinking.